Hey guys, before we dive into the show, I wanted to tell you about the perfect trailer cue blueprint, which is 100% free and you can download it right now over at thetrailermusicschool.com/blueprint. Now, this blueprint will help you to completely understand the structure of trailer music, how to build tracks that will be more licensable and have more impact and capture the right people's attention. So, whenever you start writing a cue, make sure you've got this blueprint to hand and you can use it to help speed up your process, feel more confident that you've crafted a well-structured trailer cue before you send it off to that publisher or editor or supervisor. Okay, let's get into the episode.
One man, one microphone, and one medium-sized coffee. Welcome to the Trailer Music Composers Podcast.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the Trailer Music Composers Podcast. Today, I am joined by the wonderful composer, Jon R. Mohr. Jon, lovely to have you on the show.
Mm-hmm. Thanks very much for having me.
Okay, so I'm going to give the audience a little backstory here. So everyone listening, I'm pretty sure you know I have another podcast called The Richard Schreiber Show. The show was kind of based around like talking about, I guess, a more realistic life as a composer, you know, the ups and the downs, because none of us talk about the downs, the struggles we face, etc. And Jon had heard one of the interviews on that show, which resonated with him, and he reached out to me saying, I'd like to talk on the show if you'll have me, talking about a couple of things. For those in the audience who don't know you, why don't you take a moment to introduce yourself and, tell us what you do.
Yep. So I am a cinematic music composer and producer from a small town from Ohio, and I tend to focus on trailer music and also soundtracks for films, as well as the occasional game as well.
Jon, why don't you tell the listeners what it is you would like to talk about on the show? Because I think these things are really, really important.
The first one, probably at least for me personally, is trying to establish a career in this sort of a industry with this sort of a speech impediment. And the next thing I'd like to discuss is also imposter syndrome. And then finally, going from essentially nothing to now working for about 2 trailer publishers, as well as multiple short films.
Awesome. Okay, right. Could you talk a little bit about the speech impediment for the audience? Because actually, I think, it's the things that we have to overcome as composers.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Can be difficult anyway,
Yeah.
Having a speech impediment when you're dealing with this type of work, because you mentioned that it affects your creative ability sometimes. So what do you elucidate, please?
So the impediment that I personally have, I've had it since about 4th grade, I want to say. And typically the way that it manifests problems is like when I'm trying to make some sort of a content post for a Instagram, for example, I can't really get across what I want to say as fast as I actually want to. And probably the worst part for that, it's the fact that Instagram has I think like 1 minute of video length limit for posts and reels as well. And for someone who stutters, that's not really pleasant and not really fun to work with. So I've essentially trying to gradually work through the stutter and sort of figure out the best way to work, like not necessarily against it, work with it sort of, so that I can still get across what I want to say, but in the most efficient way possible. And also I've had it like within my brain that the stutter sort of comes off as sort of a strange to like film directors. For example, since like I can't really talk super fast, but I don't think it's actually had too much of an impact on the working relationships, thankfully. So at the very least, there's that.
Yeah, I suppose the thing is, so much happens over email, doesn't it?
Yep.
But I would just like to say, Jon, I think you're incredibly brave. Coming talking about this, and I think I'm really keen for the listeners to hear your story, because it is brave to put yourself out there. It's I still whenever I record these podcasts, I still get nervous. So I think it's really brave of you, man. And
thank you.
So let's rewind a little bit. I want to talk about your earliest creative memory.
The earliest creative memory that I have is one Christmas, like about maybe 10, 15 years ago. My dad gave me this Yamaha YPT 210 keyboard, I believe it was. This thing wasn't really too great in terms of like how I could work with it. Or like the main problem that I had with it was it wasn't really velocity sensitive, which is a massive problem for cinematic like stuff. But despite that, I believe it was in 6th grade, in my math class, we had this game called like Genesis Star Wars, I believe it was. We essentially were formed into separate teams, and we just had to answer like math questions properly. And like I believe whoever answered the most correct questions, they just won. Now I can't remember why for sure, but for some reason I wanted to compose this song for the winner of that game for some reason. And my teacher was totally fine with it, and in fact, he encouraged it too. So I composed this like 8.5 minute long song, which at this point is really, really, really terrible, and it's not something I'm super proud of now, but it's something that essentially told me that I think I have a passion for this, even if right now I don't understand what I'm trying to do, and it sounds terrible.
So wait a second. How old were you?
I was in 6th grade, so I want to say maybe 12 or 13.
And you said 8.5 minutes.
Yeah.
What?
With so like at that time I was a huge fan of this metal subgenre called power metal, I believe it was. And like those songs had a tendency to like range from like 4 to even 25 minutes in total runtime. So
like post rock.
Pretty much, yeah. So like I wanted to compose something like that, but again, I didn't really know how to, except for like this really simple like 3-chord progression thing, which I believe it might be one of the most common chord progressions in trailer music too. So I essentially wrote an entire song with just those like 3 chords. And again, I'm not super proud of it now, but when they played it for the like full 6th grade class, they applauded me for it, which was quite the surprise.
Yeah, I think for a fragile ego of a 12-year-old, getting a class applause for an 8.5 minute epic, you know, that would be like,
yeah,
I'm basically the Don, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Call me Don Mohr, please, you know. Amazing. Oh, dude, that must have been so wonderful for you as a child, you know.
Yeah.
So where did you go from there? You know, was it like, okay, back to the studio, John?
See, the funny thing is, I didn't really compose any other songs following that for like years. So it was just that single song, and I didn't really write anything else following that. However, something that I really liked to do, especially for 8th grade as well, was search up these synthesia like piano tutorials, and essentially learn songs from those. And I wouldn't learn like entire songs. I would like learn sections and then try and learn a separate song, which is probably not how you're supposed to learn to play the piano, but it's just how it worked for me personally. Then in, I want to say, my junior year of high school, I took this music appreciation class, and for some reason, like probably 2 or 3 weeks into the class, something clicked for me, and I still didn't know how to compose, but like I was sort of composing songs ish with like maybe 1 or 2 chords, and I essentially thought to myself, I don't know what I'm doing, but I want to keep doing it. then following that, the following year, I took a music theory course from the same high school. And then that is especially when things like really, really clicked for me officially.
Nice. Okay, so things are starting to fall into place. You're starting to learn the nuts and bolts behind what, that 3-chord progression.
Yep.
Which I have to say, I bet the listeners are doing what I'm doing, which is, damn it, which one was it? This was it? I guess it was a minor key, right?
Yes.
Yeah, minor keys.
Yeah.
So was it? I want to say 1 flat 6 4. So as I say, A minor, F, D minor.
No, it wasn't that. I believe it was A minor. It was then G major and then F.
And then F.
And then
that
back.
was damn it. I should have trusted my instinct. That was it. I was going to say C minor, B flat, A flat.
Yep.
Yes.
That's the one.
That's the beast. Okay, nice. Yeah, that is probably still one of my favorites of all time too. And actually, that's fantastic in any piano writing. That progression just oozes easy melodies.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, so high school. Where do we go from there, John?
From there, I had to sort of figure out if I wanted to attend college for songwriting or not. I officially decided to attend for something else entirely, but I still worked on composing songs on the side, and I would essentially spend like pretty much my entire college career composing more for myself, but actually officially composing for more student short films in my senior year, which is where I'm at now.
Nice. Okay. At your senior year now.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Okay. So, I mean, to be fair, it's pretty common where, as a composer, you'll realize that you really like composing and then go, yeah, I'll just do it on the side, do something else.
Yep.
Damn it, what am I doing? Okay. So, I mean, I'm very, very keen to, at this point in time, you're doing short films, you're starting to write for 2 traded publishers. This is a really exciting and also terrifying time in anyone's career. Admittedly, you could find terror in any length, any stretch of the career. If you're in your peak success, when is the success ever going to stop? Is it going to stop? I'm going to lose it all. Yeah. We know that one. So, what's been the lowest point in your career to this point?
So like my lowest point personally is probably prior to composing for short films and really just composing for things in general. It was like in the first half of 2019, I think. At this point, I was attending college, I believe, full time, while also working at a warehouse, like almost full time. I think technically it was like maybe 30 hours per week. So like those two, they don't really give you much free time. And because of that, I didn't really have time to write songs in general. And on top of that, I wasn't really happy with how my song sounded. And I more or less felt like I was sort of plateauing, like in just general like compositional skill. So like that mixed with like zero time to write in general, I just wasn't feeling great in the slightest. At this point, I've kind of put most, if not all, of my passion into the songwriting process. So not being able to write was kind of like not really being myself, which naturally it doesn't feel great at all either.
So you kind of got to that point where, I always like to envisage it as the creative drive is kind of like a constant flow of water coming down and through us. And then when you don't let that out, you just block up, right? So what you're saying is that because you didn't have the time to do it, everything just got blocked, right? So how did you get out of that?
To like kind of extend the stream metaphor, I don't think there was like a single thing that helped get me from that. I just recall that, or no, so I was actually totally wrong there. What actually helped me personally, in March, I found these orchestration tutorial videos from Alex Mukala. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his last name properly.
Yeah. Well, I know the guy.
Yeah.
He's got like 3 YouTube channels now, hasn't he? Like the orchestral one, the rock one.
Yeah, the orchestral one, his official one. Yeah. Does he have a third one?
I thought he did, but I can't recall it off the top of my head, But go on, sorry. Yeah. I know.
Yeah. yeah, I get you. So I watched like a few of his videos, and it felt like it sounds sort of cliche-ish, but it felt like I sort of found the light in a way. Since like part of the problem was I didn't really like how my song sounded, and I didn't know how to really improve. However, finding those tutorial videos can also hearing the changes, that really, really, really helped.
So when you say hearing the changes, do you mean hearing the changes within the orchestration, or hearing the changes within the composition, or hearing the changes within your own work?
Oh, that was hearing the changes within my own personal work.
Gotcha. Yeah, and also don't worry about it sounding cliched, because also the thing is there are cliches for a reason, because there is some commonality between the way that we describe things. Obviously, there's a limitation to words, but sometimes it does feel like that. I've seen the light. This is great. And I'm not just saying this in a religious or spiritual context, but in a kind of like everyday. It just feels like something has brightened. Yeah, I think that's another wonderful thing about YouTube, that sometimes it's quite good just to sit and look around on YouTube, just see and then you stumble on something that was there for a reason. So were you writing cinematic music before you watched Alex's tutorials, or was it mostly piano-based songwriting?
It was a mix of piano songs and also cinematics songs. Like, I think I knew from the start that I wanted to compose for films. it's just for like 5 out of the 6 years that I've been composing songs, I didn't really have the connections to do film scoring work, so I'm more or less just practiced for like 4-ish years, basically.
Nice. Refining your craft.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so at what point in your timeline was this? Your senior year now. Where was this that you were working a tremendous amount of hours and you decided you stumbled upon these tutorials that kind of suddenly showed you, oh my gosh, this is possible. This other stuff. What is this? When was that?
That I believe was like near the finish of the spring semester. So like that was around when things in general were just getting happier, like weather wise. So like that was also sort of symbolic of like I finally found the light here, and I can also sort of feel it from outside.
So it wasn't just a metaphor. You could see the light in many more ways than one.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, awesome. I've just got a quick question. Audience, you're listening, you can't see this because obviously this is a podcast, but you all know I'm a massive hippie. How come you got pictures of chakras in the back of your room?
What you're talking about. Yeah. So technically, those are my girlfriends. She's into like more spiritual, the zodiac sort of thing. It's not so much my thing personally, but I do quite like how it looks, if I'm honest.
There's power in those images.
Yeah.
No, I was just wondering because I'm a massive hippie and I'm hugely into energy healing. So yeah, love it. Okay, sorry, audience, sidetracked. I got distracted. Right, where were we? Okay, so you've kind of come out of this funk now. When we chatted before the show, I think we were both keen on talking about kind of going from nowhere to getting to that point which most composers want, which is writing for a trailer music publisher. I say most composers, most trailer music composers,
Yeah.
Classical concert composers going, hold on, I'm writing for a trailer music company. This has all got awful. Walk us through that journey. Because those steps of going from no contacts, no work to having contacts and having work, those steps are the steps that everybody wants to find.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So it initially started when I reached out to someone called Adam Ivy, which you may or may not have heard of.
Music marketing mogul guru. Yes,
both, yeah.
Yeah, the marketing man on YouTube. Who's I like his messaging. He does that kind of like 10-year overnight success story, doesn't he? Yeah.
So I reached out to him in like late 2019 because I wanted to learn how to actually like get the connections and like market myself properly, because like prior to that, really all the marketing that I was actually doing was just posting something on a Twitter and essentially saying like, hey, so I just finished this song, check it out on my channel, and that's it, which doesn't really work if you don't already have people who listen to you. So I worked with him I've been working with him since then. And from that working relationship, I essentially figured out like how to figure out who to talk to, if that makes sense, which I think it does.
Oh yeah, totally. So well, it's all networking is the old, talking to the right people.
Yeah. So like when you're just starting out, you don't really know how to figure out how to talk to the right people, and like you don't know where to even start. So like prior to working with Adam, I didn't have a network of composers in the slightest, but now I'm actually like talking with like fellow trailer composers and trailer film composers, and like I wouldn't have gotten here without actually working with him personally, because like I didn't really know what I was doing prior. I mean, this sort of sounds like an advertisement for him, which isn't really the intention. It's just this is what has really worked for me personally, at least.
Hey, it's your story, if
true.
working with Adam worked, you talk about it.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, that's what mentors are there for, aren't they? They're there to guide you, and help you see your own potential, which it sounds like he's done. I've not done any of his programs or anything like that, but he does have some fantastic YouTube content, some YouTube channel, isn't he? No, he has some great content on there.
Absolutely.
So you've got Adam Ivy as your mentor, kind of showing you the ropes about connecting with other composers, which for me was like, when I started out, it was before social media, or like it was on the cusp of social media. So this was like 2007. So Facebook had just launched in the UK. So, only the cool kids are on Facebook back then. Now it's just all mums and dads, which I suppose I am now. So it makes sense. So, I'd go to networking events to do that thing. And all I'd ever end up doing is talking to other composers, because you turn up to these networking events thinking, I'm going to be like a director or an editor, and they're going to hire me forever, and I'm going to be famous. It's going to be amazing, and I just end up talking to other composers. And at the time, I used to get really annoyed about that. So I'm like, I don't want to just speak to other composers. I just want, there's loads of those. So I want to, I want to talk to the people who matter.
Yeah.
But it's not until now I realize, actually, those other composers are like, if you imagine it, the pyramid, they're like the foundation of your network, right? They are there to support you. And
absolutely,
I think that's such a good thing that you've got that already. You've started making those connections. So where did you go? Where did you go you've started building up your connection of fellow composers, both trailer and film. What's next?
Well, for now, I'll probably still keep composing for short films. And I'll also keep composing for the two publishers that I'm working with. Believe like at least one of them now should release a compilation and album that will feature probably two of my songs, I believe, which feels pretty good, if I'm honest.
If I had a party popper right now, I'd pop that party popper. Boop. Yes. No, that's huge, and I want to backtrack a touch, because were those trailer publishers among the people you reached out to? How did you make those connections?
So one of them, I reached out to her in like 2020. However, my production skills weren't really good at the time. So like she essentially said, your composition is good, but your production isn't quite up to standard. I found her while I was connecting with other trailer composers on, I believe, Facebook, which I think is like probably arguably the easiest way to connect with composers. Like, I'm not sure why, but it seems like a very accessible way to like meet those sorts of people. And for the second trailer publisher, I found out about through someone from a shared Facebook group that we were in for about a year prior.
So there we go. I don't know whether you remember, but I suppose it was years ago now. Was it years ago? Years ago. I had Cody still on the call, not on the group, not when it was me, Cody, and Kieran, but Cody came on, and Cody's the founder of, I think, the most fantastic Facebook group for trailer music composers and aspiring composers and publishers and supervisors. They're all in there. Like, join Cody's group, because they're all in there. Like, all of the people you will work with are in that group, basically.
Hit the support group.
Yeah, that's it. The trailer music composers support group. Yep,
that's the one.
Yeah, that seriously, guys, if you're listening and you're thinking, I want to crack into this industry, just go and be on that group and be a nice person. Like, that's such a win-win. Like, because everyone notices the nice people. Yeah, there's loads of not nice people, not just not in the group, but generally, just in case those people are listening. So this is the thing: is all of this is wonderful, and it's great that you're working with publishers, and you've got a mentor, and you're following these steps to not just get paid work in trailers, but also build your brand as a composer. Mm-hmm. But, and this is the thing this is the big but, because before I get into the big but, we're, it's talking about the achievements and the steps we took to those achievements do not describe our inner world in any way, shape, or form, do they? Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, so I did Facebook, I reached out to someone, and now I'm working with them, and now I've landed trailers. Like, that sounds just so easy, but it's not. It's like, I went to Facebook, replied to someone, and then deleted it because I thought I'd upset them, and then then liked it, and then unliked it because I worried it would seem weird that I've liked two of their posts at the same time, and then thought about posting a link to my track, but then realized I hated my track and it was the worst piece I've ever written. All of these, like, the mountains of demonic thoughts on our head and our shoulders that sit there. So walk us through a few of the struggles that you've faced in getting to that point. I mean, you're obviously very aware of those struggles because you've reached out to me to talk about them. And, you've got a mentor, which for me is kind of a mature thing to do. So talk us through these struggles.
This is not including the imposter syndrome, is it? Just to make sure.
This is that's a whole other series, I think. The imposter syndrome. You can talk about imposter syndrome if you'd like. take your pick, John. You know,
yeah, I get you. Yeah.
let's. I mean, first of all, I think I used to listen to a podcast called An Entrepreneur on Fire. He calls it EO Fire, and he'd always drop these wonderful Americanisms, and he'd call everything truth bombs. It was great. It was great. And one of the things he'd always say was, compare and despair, people. So let that be your cue.
So like one of the biggest things that I personally struggled with in getting to this point is I'm also a very introverted person in general. I am a part of like the Trailer Music Academy group, which I believe is run by Christian Batchick and Daniel. I forget how to pronounce his last name.
Yeah.
I think it's that. Yeah. There, they strongly encourage like people to share like their songs for critique, but I for some reason personally struggle to do that. It's not necessarily that I'm not happy with the track. It's more like maybe I'm shy, or like maybe I just don't want to like risk somehow making someone like furious that I shared something. It's a really strange like mental thing for me. Or I think for the most part, it's the groups. So like I'm a part of that group, the support group, and other groups as well. But I don't really post in a single group at all. Like maybe I'll comment like once or twice on something, but I don't ever really post or really just reach out to people in the context of the group itself. Like how I've been able to work around that is essentially form like one-on-one relationships with various people, like through shared interests / like motives. And at least for me personally, that's been much easier instead of like trying to interact with the group as a whole. At least for me personally.
Yeah, with regard to sharing the tracks, I really love the fact you said that. I don't like sharing tracks. I don't like doing it. Because for me, it's a case of like not knowing the intentions of the listener. If you're sat there with a certain type of person, let's say a couple of music producers who happen to be your publishers, and you show them tracks, you are going to get a genuine critique focused on making a track better from the people that at the end of the day matter, because they're the ones that are going to take your track and sell it. Whereas in some of these groups, if you don't feel like in that group even if there's just one person in there that you think is a little overzealous with their feedback, I don't want to share it in there, because your feedback's going to make me cry or make me really angry, and like I've got enough of those voices in my head. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And I think the really important part with groups is that idea of safety, isn't it? So yeah, it does resonate with me about not sharing tracks. And actually, I kind of know what you mean about in social groups. I tend to try and avoid all social media as much as possible. I think I'm even coming to the point where I'm going to delete Instagram off my phone, because I just find it all so stressful.
I mean, it's like, especially with platforms like TikTok, if, for example, you have a post that like goes viral, like I think I had like maybe one or two posts that are like, one of them reached like 400,000 views and the other one reached like 500,000 views.
Whoa.
It's cool, but at the same time, it's like I'm not sure if it's because of the fact that you can like visibly see success through how the post itself is actually performing, but it feels like that brings in many more critics than usual, and that doesn't feel as great. Just like, I don't have to have like maybe 10 or 20 people saying this sucks. just chill. Chill, okay.
Yeah, I know. I didn't like Facebook ads either for that very same reason. I've never been blessed with a or cursed with a viral social media post. Probably
it's
cursed.
More like both. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, hit with a really beautiful stick. I think, but my only experience with that is advertising. So you pay to put it in front of lots more people, and the percentages. Say on a single post, you have like 1 in 10 people says something slightly negative. Generally, let's say I get 10 people liking a post of mine, right? So that means that 10%, 10%, there's going to be someone who's going to be a bit mean.
Yeah.
So if that then goes not just to 10 people, but 100,000 people, the percentages suddenly stack up, and our brains are wired to focus on the horrible things. You'll get like 100 people saying, "You're the man. This is the best thing I've ever seen in my life. You've literally changed me." And then someone says, "You suck," and you're like, "Oh my gosh, he's right. I'm the worst." What have I done?
Yeah. Like for my most viral post, or the like 500,000 views one, that one I think has like maybe 2,000 comments. I'm also trying really hard to not sound like I'm trying to flex, which I'm not, for the record, but it's like in the comment section, there's like probably at least 1,000 positive comments, but there's like a couple that just say something like, this is probably the worst like thing I've heard. And even though those comments like are generally few and far-ish between, it still like hits harder than like 1,000 or so people saying this sounds like fantastic. It's weird. It's like you kind of tune out these successes and just focus on the failures, like in that sense.
Yeah, and I think especially if you're in a bad mood, I think this is the thing. My pattern is, if I'm having a great time, I don't look at that stuff.
Yeah.
If I'm feeling rubbish, say I've written a track and I'm tired, I'll go, okay, I'll just go on social media and make myself feel better. And I must be incredibly stupid, because in the decade or so since I've been using social media, it's never made me feel better. Never. Not once,
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I just think this stuff, dealing with your own negative mind and other people's ability to now sort of splurge their negativity out is, it's tough. It's tough.
It is.
I would just like to ask a couple. Let's do a quick fire round to close off the interview. Unless you want to talk about imposter syndrome.
We could. We can try to like talk about it briefly.
Yeah.
I think I really had like maybe one big thing to say for it. How imposter syndrome feels for me personally, if I compose some soundtrack for a film director and I send it to them, which is of course by itself pretty terrifying, then they come back and say like, this sounds fantastic, in general, like very positive things. Like, I don't want to sound ungrateful, but internally it feels like I don't necessarily really believe what they're saying, if that makes sense. It's just like, I appreciate the comment, but internally it's more like he's probably simply saying that because it's the nice thing to say, slash we're friends, so like it's like that weird internal struggle. And that's usually how imposter syndrome feels for me personally. Like, I don't tend to fully believe the positive things that people say, but in a weird way, I think like not fully believing people, it kind of drives me to improve further, since like probably the main problem is that my expectations for myself are much, much higher than what other people's expectations might be. I don't know how high mine are exactly, but I still like shoot to like reach that point, if that makes sense.
That makes sense. And actually, it's a really nice way to view this idea of feeling like you're just tricking everyone.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like, well, great, I got away with tricking them once more, which gives me that extra time to actually get to that stage that they say I am.
Yeah.
That's a really nice thing to do, actually, because I still have that. I'll finish an album and be like, phew, they didn't notice I'm not a real composer.
Right.
It's like it's still there, and the voice is quieter and it's not so repetitive, but the voice will come out occasionally and it'll still be there. So it's nice. It's nice. Oh, thanks, buddy. I'll get better next time.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, let's go to the quick fire. I think that's a really nice twist on the old classic of I don't belong here. I'm just lying.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Okay, so quick fire round. I'm always keen to talk about gear, specifically samples, but let's go. What's your DAW of choice?
Reaper.
Oh, hello. Okay. Now, what is your piano sample library of choice?
It is Mohr. I believe it's pronounced from Native Instruments.
Yeah, I'm yet to buy that. Everyone says I'll like it, so I should put that on my list. Buy Mohr. Okay, go to brass library.
Metropolis Hark 1.
Yeah, classic. Okay,
it is amazing.
I know. It's, for me, it was quite similar to the first time I played Albion 1, where you play it and you go, oh my God, it sounds like a real orchestra.
Yeah.
Like an actual one. Okay, go to string library.
String library. It is between East West Symphonic Orchestra plus Metropolis Hark 1 still.
Nice. The bite of East West with the great gritty reverb of Arc. Okay, go to we'll go big drums. Go to big drums.
Ooh, I'd have to say, or does that include hits
Oh yeah.
as well?
Yeah.
Probably Ava Instinct,
Oh,
classic.
I've not used that.
Really?
Yeah, dude.
Ever?
Like, I'm not going to pretend. I've sadly limited myself. I'm only just opening the floodgates to new libraries at the moment.
Hmm.
So yeah, I see. I see all these videos. All these people have got these like tons of libraries in their contact.
Yeah.
Library collective. Like, oh my gosh, what are they? All these lovely colors.
Yeah.
Okay, Ava
I
Instinct.
feel it.
Okay, cool. Okay, what about? Actually, I don't often ask this. I always forget. Poor choirs. They get forgotten. What's your go-to choir?
That's also Metropolis Arc 1. Though I think at some point I would like to purchase a Oceana Choir, since I've heard that sounds fantastic.
Yeah, I actually layer those two up because Oceana
Oh, really?
Choir, they're like the repeated random syllables give the
Yeah.
attack of the note, and the change of the syllable sounds with the kind of like fullness of the Metropolis arc.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do like that choir. It's nice. Okay, and top 3 effects plugins.
The first one would have to be OTT, of course. Second one is probably ROM, which that is a reverb plugin from Native Instruments, I believe. And then the third one is probably the Ozone 9 suite.
Oh, nice. Just
Yeah.
I'll sneak in an entire suite of plugins on my last one.
I mean, like it's like
it's all right.
I mean, it technically can be a single plugin. Technically,
yeah, true. And to be fair, I would probably have put Sound Toys all in one. So
I forgot about Sound Toys.
So, yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, it's too late.
I can't believe I forgot about Sound Toys.
You can't go back on them. Can't go back.
Dang.
Have I missed any? Piano, strings, brass hits, choir, effects? Nah. Oh, actually, any wild cards? This is a new one.
Ooh. That is a good one. Oh man. Probably a transient modulator, I believe it's called. I can't believe, I can't recall who exactly it's from, but I tend to use that on most, if not all, hits / percussion at like a lower level. So yeah.
Transient modulator. So
yeah,
what's it doing to the waves?
So like I've seen a couple of videos like fully explaining how it works. So I kind of don't remember them entirely at this time, but what it seems to sound like, it's sort of like compression, but not quite. So like if you have a snare hit, I believe it essentially extends the sound of the hit itself. So like it sort of sounds like bigger / like more impactful in a way. I believe that's generally how that works.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I think if that was the shoe was on the other foot and you said, Rich, describe to me, how does that transient modulator work? I'd be like, I don't know. It sounds good.
I don't know how it works. It just makes things sound good, and that's all I care about.
Yeah, I'd be a terrible reviewer. This sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Buy it. Done.
yeah, me too.
Jon, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for coming on the show.
Yeah.
And I would like you to leave with one parting pearl of wisdom for the aspiring trailer music composer. In fact, the aspiring composer, what's your one piece of advice to help them through the struggles of being a composer?
For someone that was in my shoes, essentially learn how to make noise. However, but that doesn't necessarily mean like just spam your songs on like Twitter or Facebook. Like make the proper / like strategic noise. So like make content for the people sort of that you want to work with / for, in a sense, because that will eventually attract those sorts of people towards you, since that's what sort of happened for me personally.
Nice. Strategic noise. I've not heard that term before, and I like it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Jon.
Yep, sure thing.
Amazing.